Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Hobby Tips. Today we're gonna make some walkways. I know we did walkways a while back, but this time it will be some narrow walkways with some railing. To make it even more interesting, I decided to make it out of stuff that you can generally pick up for free. So, paint sticks, you get these in hardware stores and painting stores for free. They're used to stir paint with, usually. I've used these to paint models, just stick them on there, and when I do airbrushing or spray painting. These small pieces of wood are from some canvas I bought way back for a painting project, and they were supposed to be added to the corners for stability, but unneeded, so I have a pile of them. You could use any other piece of wood. You can even cut them from the painting sticks. So I'll count that as free materials too. A couple of push pins. I'll probably need 4 of those if my plan plays out the way I want it to. A couple of paper clips, and once again some kebab spears. So, and again, you could use any sort of long thin sticks for this. So yeah, pretty much free materials all around. So first thing we're gonna do, put most of the stuff aside for now. Of course, also we're gonna use some PVA glue, or wood glue, whatever you want to call it, white glue. And we're gonna start out with these. So we'll make a mark at 22.5. Notice the subtle product placement on the pen. Not that I'm getting a sponsorship or anything. They just sent me a pen with my last order. And for starters, it's just a matter of sawing these in two. And flatten down each of the ends. And it's a good idea to do it this way to make it as even as possible. So after filing, they look like this. And with the length of this video in mind, I decided to just make 2 walkways right now, and then I can always go back and make more later. Anyway, put these aside and start to make the rails. Pick out 2 of these and use another one as measuring. And then saw these into 4 little squares. So now we have 4 sets, enough to match the 4 long sides of our walkways. Yep. Take a brush fit for PVA duty, and then we glue each of the long sides like this, and the square parts in the middle, in between. While letting the first pieces settle a bit, and before adding the square ones, I draw a cross across them to find the middle, and then take the push pins and cut the needle shorter so it won't go all the way through. Put a glob of PVA glue in the center. And place the pushpin like this. This is a fully optional step, but I want to get a bit of detail, and these will be excellent for placing mechanicum transfer once we're done painting. Now I mark out the middle of each walkway or bridge and glue these pieces on. And now the annoying thing about PVA glue, we have to let it dry before we continue. Next I'm gonna cut 2 lengths of kebab stick to each of the gaps, and as I want them to fit quite tight in there, it's better to cut them a bit too large and then file them down than too small. And once you have 2 that fits, it's just a matter of gluing them in there with plenty of PVA glue. So I'll proceed to add these all the way around both walkways. So now they look like this, and frankly it would be easy to add more detail. I thought about cutting some small pieces of stick to add to the ends just to give some more varied form, and even using the spikes to make it seem more evil. So yeah, if you were doing a more chaos themed, I would definitely put spikes atop at least the middle section. You could also add a series of sticks underneath to give some texture there, but all in all, I decided that I'll just stick with this rather simple sci-fi terrain design. And I know I said I was going to use paper clips in the beginning, but when I was planning this project I thought I would be pinning everything together, but then I forgot all about it and they seem sturdy enough now, so never mind that. Though if you were to add spikes or little details protruding from them, I would suggest pinning, but this structure, well, basically doesn't need it. So now that I'm happy with the design, I'm gonna undercoat them with Army Painter's Angel Green, and then we'll get to painting. Now that they're nice and green, I'm gonna mix some Game Air Dark Green and Sig Green and start a highlight transition on the railings. Don't worry about the walking area itself or these sticks, because we're gonna paint those metallic in a moment. And these are airbrush paints, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of flow improver, ending up with a color that looks like this. Next, I'll add some more Sig Green to the mix. You can see there's still a little of the first mix in there. And going a bit further, I'll take some Scorpion Green. Once again, add it with the mix, so it now looks like this. Now, just to take it a little bit further, I'm gonna give the upper edges an edge highlight with Mood Green, which is essentially the same tone as Scorpion Green. And following that, I'll take some gunmetal, and that'll be to paint in, as said, the sticks that make up the rails. It'll be for the pushpin and the entire flooring. I don't want to use shade wash the usual way, just like I don't want to dry brush, because I don't want to bring out the wood texture any more than I have to. So instead I've loaded up the airbrush with some umber shade. And I start by coating everything from beneath. And when the underside is dry, I'll just do the same on the metal in the middle. And once the shade has settled a little, you can start to manipulate it using just air to make it seem like corroded metal even more. Next, I'm gonna do pretty much the same all over again, but this time with Nuln Oil. And I'll be much more selective now of where I put it, as to let some of the brown color show still. While the wash is not completely dry in the larger spots, it is dry enough on these push pins to go on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to paint a layer of art coat over them to prepare them for the transfer. And next I take some demineralized water, put it in a palette, and choose the transfers I want. I decided on these black Mechanicum skulls, and I'll obviously need 4 of them, as there are 4 push pins. And once they have settled, I'll seal them in with some Lamaine medium. And after that, we'll just do a little bit of weathering and they'll be done. And for weathering, and to make them match with my other pieces, I'm gonna make some areas of typhus corrosion, and once that's dry, I'm gonna dry brush the center of those up with some Rizza Rust. And you've seen me do this before. I also figured it would look good to paint over the areas where the sticks meets the rest of the structure, because they didn't look as good as I had hoped they would. But that works really well, I think. And now for the Rizza Rust. And I really like how these green and oranges work together. You could of course replace the green scale with whatever goes with your gaming board, but I've decided to keep this scheme pretty consistent for my Shadow Armageddon board, and with that also my new industrial 40k board, obviously. And once I'm completely done with the Risa Rust, I'm gonna give them some Testers art code, and they'll be done. So here they are, ready for the tabletop. I'm really happy with them, and considering how little effort and how cheap they are to produce, I think they might be useful for a lot of people out there. Especially since everybody can make them, and you can make them more or less detailed depending on your time and skill. So yeah, that was this week's hobby tip. I hope you found it useful, and tune in next week where we'll have some fun with some food cans. And yeah, that's it for now, so take care and bye bye.